This morning I saw a kingfisher do something that I hadn't expected it to do. Or maybe I should say that it's possible I've never been in the right place to witness it do this kind of behavior before. And this got me thinking about the assumptions that I have about nature that shape the beliefs that I have about what's possible. I love to be surprised and delighted by the natural world, and moments like this open my mind to new ways of thinking about nature. And they also inspire me to consider new ways of thinking about my own life. Join me for the Mindful Bird Sit today, and I'll share more about this story. Hey there. Thanks for coming to the Mindful Bird Sit. If you're new here, my name is Kristi, and I help people connect more deeply with birds and nature while boosting their skills, elevating their confidence, and helping them to fall more in love with life. If that's something you'd like to do, please consider subscribing and sticking around. You can also join any number of my online courses like Identify Any Bird Anywhere. All right, let's get started. So I was on this water that I was just describing to you. It's oh, there's an osprey flying by with the fish. That's so nice. It's the right near the Connecticut River, and but it's like kind of like a bay. It's a slow-moving body of water right here, and it has its tidal. And I heard this kingfisher. It was like, and it does like the machine gun kind of thing, like. So I heard that go through, and I just thought to myself, I was just like, wow. I guess I've only ever seen kingfishers like in smaller rivers and streams, and they're kind of like the king and the queens of their body of water, as far as like being fishermen. I mean, there's ospreys and eagles that can come by and whatnot, but you know, they have this presence when they're there, they make their presence known by their vocalization, but then they just sort of own the water. And but when I heard them here, I thought, gosh, there's so many other birds. There's like terns and gulls and just all sorts of other birds who, like the herons even. And just it was just really incredible to me to think about all the other birds that they might interact with. And I thought, wow, they're not like, the king of the castle out here. And I guess I just wouldn't imagine them. Somehow I just didn't picture them in this habitat. And so all that to say, that got me thinking and sort of priming us for our session today. Just questioning my assumptions that I make about nature. And I thought, I wonder where that came from. Like, why did I assume that kingfisher wouldn't be here? And maybe I've just never had that experience, but I thought it could be interesting to sort of play with that today, to play with the idea of questioning our assumptions and, yeah, just kind of engaging in that journey. So I will guide us today. It'll be a ears and eyes, or one or the other, so it doesn't matter, whichever one you prefer today. It's starting to drizzle a little bit. Whichever one you prefer today, you can focus on. And so if you're inside, just I think most of you are actually outside, actually. But if anyone who's going to watch the recording is inside, just go ahead and crack a window or position yourself in front of a window so that you can see. And again, it's always ideal for the bird sit to focus on the birds, but if you can't, if there's no birds vocalizing or you can't see any, look at something else. Look at a butterfly, look at a turtle, look at the grass, like whatever. It doesn't really matter. Like we can apply pretty much everything that I do here to anything in nature. So, but I will be speaking mostly just about the birds today. So we'll start by getting ourselves grounded and connected. And then for anyone who's new to the bird sit, what we'll do at the end is we're going to have a chat session. So that's optional. You don't have to stay for that, but some really incredible, I don't know, insights and just sharing comes up at the chat session. So you don't have to chat. You don't have to share anything. You can just observe if you want to, but that's after our sit. So I will guide us through the whole process and you all can just sit back and enjoy the ride. All right? Okay, so everyone get comfortable in whatever position you'd like to be in. And just take note of your surroundings. Just notice whatever you want to. Who's around? What's around? We'll just take a quick moment to do that because we'll be spending a lot more time with it later. And then we can begin by closing our eyes. If you feel like you're in a safe place, someplace you feel comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes. It'll help us to settle in a bit more deeply to our own bodies and our own experience to start us off. So take a nice deep breath in And let it go. Just to start to connect with your breath, becoming conscious of your breath. We often don't have to think about our breath, but right now we're going to consciously put some attention on our breath. So on your next inhale, notice the sensation of the air entering your nose, and then as it travels down your throat, and then into your beautiful cilia and airways, your lungs. And just noticing the different parts of your body that your breath touches. So with each in-breath, you're just trying to expand and explore different aspects of your body, different areas. And then with each exhale, you can just let go. Let go of the breath that you had within you, gift it to the world, gift it to the trees and the plants around you as a blessing on them. And then receive their blessing and their gift to us of the oxygen and the inhale. So I'll let you do that a couple times, just taking a couple breaths in and then out. Beautiful. And now you can just notice your posture. Notice if you happen to be sitting up nice and tall, or if you were slouching a little bit, maybe you're leaning forward or leaning backward. And there's nothing right or wrong about it, but just notice. Just notice what was natural for you. How are you naturally sitting? And then if you were to be a bit more mindful about your posture, how do you want to sit? What's inspiring for you? What feels nourishing and opening right now? For some people, that might be to imagine that the crown of your head is connected to the sky with just a gentle cord, and it's being pulled up. So you're just pulling the crown of your head up, 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 stretching and elongating your spine. You can tuck your chin in just a little bit, making some space in your area, in the area of your belly. So giving your belly some room to digest, room to be. And then you can roll your shoulders back, also opening up some space in your chest. And just notice how that feels. Does that feel vulnerable? Does that feel expansive and inspiring? Does it feel maybe threatening? Just whatever is coming up for you, just take stock of that. Just notice what emotions might be present for you right now. Good work. And now we're going to shift, still staying with our breath, but this time we're going to take a breath and intentionally inhale. So smelling the air that's around you and just noticing if you can smell anything unique about this day. How does it smell different or unique compared to other days that you've been outside or inside, depending on where you are? Welcome, Cindy. Mhm. All right, beautiful. Good job. So now as we start to settle in a bit more to our place, to our own bodies, slowing down, knowing that you've gifted yourself this chance to be here, this time, you've devoted some time in your schedule, so you can fully be present. You don't have to worry about going anywhere, doing anything. You can do all that when the session is over. But right now, we're just going to be here together. And so now, with our eyes still closed, if you're still feeling like you're in a comfortable, safe place, go ahead and let's listen out of our left ear. So over in the direction to our left, become familiar, like make friends with the sounds that are over in that direction of your body right now in the landscape. And oftentimes we sort of send our attention to an area that's about 10 to 20, 30 feet out from us, maybe a little bit further, unless there's something prominent calling us, like calling our attention, like a air conditioning unit, or maybe there's a loud truck really far away. But because our more comfortable place of listening is that, anywhere from 20, let's say 10 to even 50 feet away, let's listen beyond that and also closer than that. So explore and become friendly with the sounds that are closer to you, and then also those that you might have to stretch to hear right now. Good work. And now we'll shift our attention. You can thank everybody over to your left. And now we'll shift our attention over to your right. And even if on one of these directions, maybe your house or a building is close to you, you can still stretch and expand beyond that, or even within it. You can maybe listen for the sounds that are within the home. So just as we did on the left side, go ahead and listen for the sounds and become friendly with the sounds on your right-hand side. Beautiful. And now for just a moment, we'll send our attention in front of us. And our listening in front of you right now, becoming friendly with the sounds in that direction. And then gently shifting behind you, listening for the sounds, getting to know who's present with you today, who's going to hang out with you right now. Okay, good work. So in the next moment, just gently open your eyes and you can allow your gaze to fall on anything that you'd like that's, I don't know, about 10, 15, or 20 feet away, and find one point to focus on. Just one point. For me, it's this little notch in a tree. And I'm going to keep my eyes centered and focused on that notch right now, while I slowly expand my vision in all directions. So I'm still looking directly at that notch, but I'm also becoming aware and present to the sights that are in every direction. So right, left, above and below. And just let your eyes start to really soften and expand further and further, and see how far out to your right and left your eyes can stretch, your vision can stretch. And just play with that for a moment or two. Good work. And so now, before we begin our practice, and we have begun in some senses of the word or the idea, let's incorporate all of our senses. So our smell, our touch, our sight, our hearing, and just embrace everything that's around you in this moment. All right, good work. So to play with the question that I brought up earlier about questioning our assumptions about the natural world, what we're going to do is we're going to sit for maybe 2 or 3 minutes in silence. You can always bring yourself back to owl eyes or deer ears like we just did, so really listening deeply if you find your mind wandering. And you're just going to observe, just observe nature, observe the birds, notice what they're doing, notice how they're singing. And then if you start to receive, let's say, a thought about the birds, about their behavior or their sounds, you can just ask yourself, is that true? Like, is what I'm thinking right now true? Is it the only possibility? And you don't have to linger too long on that thought, but just allow that question to come in, just out of curiosity. Stay curious. Be like, is this true? Is there another possibility? So we'll begin our time now, and then I'll let you know when about 2 or 3 minutes is up, and we'll just keep going deeper with this. So you can go into owl eyes and expand your vision and your listening, and just stay in a nice meditative state while you observe the birds. Nice work, everybody. So in this next segment, uh, just a reminder to, you don't need to force a thought. So if nothing's coming, if there's no question that's present, that's okay. Just allow yourself to sink in more deeply and just connect more deeply. And if something arises, if a question arises, if it's naturally occurring, then allow it to be. But otherwise, just stay with the birds, stay with the sounds, and yeah, just continue to go deeper with what's present in your environment right now. So we'll do this for another 2 or 3 minutes. So if you've just joined us, we are sitting in silence, taking in the world around us and observing the birds, and just allowing our curiosity to play and asking the question, is it true? So if you observe something that the birds are doing or saying, you can just ask yourself, is it true? And we'll be doing this for about 2 minutes. All right, good work. So now for our next segment, you could ask yourself the question of, or just put it out there to see if now that we're in a more quiet space within ourselves, if there's a message or something that the natural world might have for us, a gift for us. So is there any message that nature has to share with us this morning? And you can go back to focusing on your breath, focusing on owl eyes, whichever one works for you. Okay, take the next moment or two to offer your own blessing or gratitude to whatever it is that you connected with this morning. So, if there were any birds or parts of the natural world that you were tapped into today, you can offer your own blessing or gratitude. All right, good work. So, I can thank everybody for coming. And we're going to shift into our chat session right now. So please stay if you'd like. Again, you don't have to chat. You can just listen. Like I said, oftentimes some really interesting and profound conversations can be had about birds and just life in general. And so to kick us off, who would like to begin? Who'd like to share from their experience this morning? Jackie, all right. And then we'll have Gabrielle after that. Go for it, Jackie.
Well, this is a little different than a profound experience, but ultimately it could be. So I'm sitting here and the birds are they're pretty talkative and everything. And then I hear a vehicle coming and it's a truck with porta potties on it, and it's backing up beyond my yard into our open space. And the birds all go silent, and they drop off the porta potty, and I could smell the smell, not of the deodorizer that they use in them. And I just thought it was hilarious. Anyhow, there it is. It's been dropped off. And so I am wondering if the birds, my assumption was the birds got quiet because of whatever was going on. And now I'm curious if they're going to be checking this out. And and then I just thought when you asked about, what's nature's message? It was shit happens, and that that really nothing on the planet could live if we don't have fertilizer. And so there, it's not exactly the messenger wasn't necessarily the natural world, but it's related to the natural world. So here is my offering to you
Yeah,
all
Jackie,
today.
you're awesome. I love that. Yeah, poop happens, it really does. And it's like, yeah, there's some magic stories. I remember one of my teachers used to share about the compost pile, and this like in this the Guatemalan in the Mayan tradition, there's this one story, this myth about it's actually like one of the boys I think that sort of founded their culture, and he sort of emerged. He came from the compost pile, everybody's trash, like all the garbage and stuff like that. And so I think there's a lot to learn from that, from the trash. And also I'm curious, you don't have to answer this because maybe you don't have an answer yet, but um, just to notice like that assumption. So when the truck came in and the birds got quiet, that would be one of those great moments to ask, my assumption would have been the same, like, are they being quiet because of the truck? And that's a good moment to say, is it true? Is my assumption that they're being quiet because of the truck true? Like, there's also something, do you guys remember? I've told stories before about a particular bird that takes advantage of humans and human behavior. Do you guys remember anyone? Does that ring a bell for anybody? Emery, I see you nodding your head. Do you remember where I might be going with this?
Well, sometimes a predator may take advantage of that and be able to swoop in with the other noise that's going on, and they're busy paying attention to that and taking their attention off of looking for hawks or various other hungry things.
Yeah, yeah. And so for me, the question is like, Were the birds being quiet because of the truck, or were the birds being quiet because maybe something else was around? You know? I wonder.
That's so great because as I was looking around just to see if anything was paying attention to this new arrival, um, there's a tree where Cooper's hawks and ravens and stuff will perch up here, and I thought I saw some movement up there.
Yeah.
So it could be.
It might
Yeah,
be, and like, yeah,
and I mean,
in part.
webinar kind of thing lasts for a little while longer.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I was hearing somebody else's voice. I think it was Anne. There we go. Um, yeah, so I think that that's a great, just a great question. You know, again, I love this question of like, is it true? I love sort of asking myself that, like, about my assumptions, you know? So that's an interesting one to ask. And I often wonder that too, like, are the birds listening to um is like the, you know how the backup sound of those trucks, like beep, beep, beep. Sometimes like if I play certain noises on my computer, whether I know I'm doing that or not, or like a ringtone or something like that, and I think that the birds are maybe responding to that. And I thought, gosh, I wonder if that tone triggers something for them, you know? And I don't know if it does or doesn't, you know, but anyway, thanks, Jackie. That's a fun one for us all to be pondering and yeah,
Yeah,
pondering.
that's also fascinating because, yeah, why would birds care whether there's a porta potty that arrived?
Right,
You
right. I mean,
know, I
trucks
mean,
are around all the time, you know, it's not a
mhm.
big, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
wonder. I wonder. That's fun. Thank you. All right, Gabrielle, you were next.
Well, oops. Am I on? Can you hear
Yep.
me?
Yep,
Okay.
sure can.
I'm still laughing about shit happens, but this is okay. So there are two things. Last week, a Cooper's hawk came and sat in the tree right next to my balcony. And I was just awed, because usually I get falcons sometimes, but this Cooper's hawk was just beautiful. And so I always kind of listened for the messages anyway, and it seemed like it was a real positive kind of trust nature kind of thing. And then this morning I woke up knowing I was going to do this, bird said, and all of a sudden I went, oh my God, it's a predator. And my cat likes to be on the balcony. Am I reading this totally wrong? Is the Cooper's hawk here because it's after my cat? Anyway, it was very interesting, sort of forewarning of what was to come. But shift over to today, and I saw this little bird, and I thought, oh, is that a hummingbird? I've been having lots of hummingbirds, but it was really fat. And I thought, wow, that doesn't look like a hummingbird. And I actually took a photo so I could zoom in on it. And yeah, it was a hummingbird. And it was very happy sitting on this branch. And when I asked for the nature's message, it was that, there's a lot of abundance in nature. And this one hummingbird was really, really fine. Had plenty of food, loved my tree. So very interesting kind of juxtaposition of, well, what is the message, and why did fear come in all of a sudden with Cooper's hawk? Oh, I know why fear came in, because my cat's an indoor outdoor cat. And a week ago, a coyote came into my backyard and the cat was out. So that created a lot of fear. I mean, I ran out there not even knowing what to do, and it was fine. My cat was fine. The coyote disappeared. But there's this really interesting emotions that are happening with nature. And I think that's a reflection of the life we're living in.
Yep. Yeah, I was just having a conversation with a friend about that the other day, just about what happened when we went from hunter-gatherer people, people who were living closely connected and tied with the land to more agrarian. You know, I shared a experience I had where I was like trading rent years ago for watching these people had like a small mini, like I don't know what you call them, like a hobby farm kind of a thing where they had a couple of sheep and goats and some chickens and whatnot, and they lived in California most of the time and then would come to Washington State where I lived, you know, maybe in the summertime or some, occasionally like just for a holiday or something like that. But so I was caretaking for these animals, and I had my window open one day, and I was living. It was like quite like the apartment was like quite high, and I kind of overlooked this beautiful, beautiful landscape and where the animals were, and all of a sudden I heard the bleating of one of the goats, I think it was, and it was just different. It was very different from what I'd heard before. And so I looked out the window. Again, it's not bird language, but it was the same thing. It's like animal language. Like they're still communicating. And I had gotten to learn, without being conscious, I'd gotten to learn their calls and their sounds and their vocalizations. And this one was something different and new, and it sounded intense. And so I looked out the window and I see a coyote in the field. And so I go running downstairs and I go running outside and I just like chase the coyote away. And I had this moment where I thought, oh my gosh, like I've been this nature girl, like deep connection to nature for a long time. And here I was like chasing the wild away, you know, from my flock. And I thought, wow, wow, yeah, I can see like where the separation has happened, you know, with people and nature. You know, when we no longer sort of live in that relationship with nature, but now we have our things, you know, we've got our animals and our crops and our things that are ours. And anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I think it does, it causes us to ponder and think about those things. Yeah.
Well, there's sort of an addendum to the coyote story. So I'm writing a book, a children's book. It's called The Power of Dream Animals because I work with people's dreams. And I am taking different animals and having them illustrated, and then talk about from the voice of the animal what they're about. So when a child has a dream with a coyote in it, they can go to this and say, oh, well, what part of the coyote am I getting a message from in my dream? And I've been having lots of writer's block about this. And I even wrote a bunch of pieces and then lost the notebook, you know. And so anyway, I was able yesterday, no, the day, no, yesterday, to write the coyote piece, which is my first real piece. And it was all about the coyote being trickster and having wisdom. And so I guess these things that are happening to me in, you know, the coyote coming to visit was ended up being really profound.
Yeah, it's awesome. This is just an aside. Like when I was writing the master's course, the bird like advanced skills for beginning birders master's course, you know, I'd come home from work and I would just sit down and I'd start writing and typing and stories would come out of me, and like so many times the animals or whatever, if I was inventing a story, let's say, oftentimes I would just tell like stories that had happened to me. But if I was sort of creating like a what if kind of situation, I remember one time I was just writing a story about a bear. I was kind of like just to like illuminate a concept. I was like, okay, so imagine that there was this bear and it was coming up over a hill, la 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 la. I'm not kidding. Within like 10 minutes of me saying that, this bear came up over the hill. And I was just like, whoa, you know, but that happened more than once when I was engaged in the writing of the course. And yeah, it's nature's magic, you know, we're magic. We have these connections. And so, Gabrielle, thank you so much for your stories and just opening this door, this sort of portal for us this morning into this conversation. I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Who else would like to share their experience? We've gone all the way from poop to coyote magic, you know, so it can be anything. Anne Marie, go for it.
Well, I had two kind of things I was focused on with birds. I was watching my cowbirds run around kind of peripherally in the yard and thinking, Well, yeah, they eat the insects. They're busy down there, and I was like, that's why they, when they are young, are placed in a nest that is a seed eater. They don't usually survive, kind of thing. And I was like, hmm, what happens in winter? Where do they, because the yard doesn't have as many things. So my mind kept wandering. I go, wonder what insects they eat in the winter. And, where do they find them? Because the yard's usually frozen. So I was like, kind of going on a whole different tangent there. I go, well, I know they don't eat the seeds. They might come to up to the feeder to look for suet or something like that, but they don't eat the seeds. So I have something else to explore there. And then there was so much wing flapping in some of the bushes because I have a lot of baby birds all over the place. And I was wondering, well, do they wing flap because, well, they want their parents' attention so that they get food? But is there something innately in the parent going, oh my gosh, you got to stop flapping or you're going to get eaten. So I need to go feed you. So is that why they wing flap? I was wondering. And then I went, well, blue-gray gnatcatchers flap all over the place when they're dropping back and forth, and warblers. So my mind kind of went lots of different places with the wing flapping. They move a little bit, but they're not as agile as like warblers or blue-gray gnatcatchers. So, but I was like, why do they wing flap besides getting, is it just to get the food? And why does the parent address that so quickly? Are they knowing that's probably not a good thing for their baby to be doing predator wise? So that's why the young does it. So that's what I was thinking.
Yes, that's awesome. Let me just everyone understand what Anne Marie is talking about when she says the wing flap. Is there anyone that they're not quite sure what that means? No, it's just synth. Okay, yeah. So baby birds, what they'll do, and it happens with adult birds at in certain circumstances as well. But what baby birds will do when they see their parent or they want to get fed is they go like this with their wings. I'm not being a wing, like this really quick with their wings, and they're just like ah, and they open their bill and they're like feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me. Like they could just stand there like still and say feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me, but they do this wing flap thing and they're like feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me, and yeah, and so that's what Anne Marie was speaking about, like that. And I love that you were asking that question. I think it's one of those great assumptions that we have about the world. Like we've been told sort of like, oh, birds do it for this, XYZ reason, but like maybe there's another reason that we haven't even thought about. We haven't allowed ourselves to explore that question, which is why I love it so much when we're just like, really? Is that really why they do it? So high five, Anne Marie. That's great. That's great. Good for you for wondering that. I actually had like a different sort of question for myself today. This is like off on a tangent, I suppose. It was in like the last section when we were like asking for the message. And I was listening and I could hear there was lots of, you guys might even be able to hear it right now, but there's a gentle breeze and the leaves are all like rustling. And I just thought to myself, I think I've always thought like, well, the leaves rustle because the wind's blowing through it. And I was like, well, why would the leaves be able to make a sound in the environment? They don't have ears, so they can't like hear each other, but is there some degree of communication that the leaves are providing, whether it's for each other or for the world or something that like, I don't know, I've just never thought about. Like, I think I just take leaves for granted. It's like, oh, they're up there and they make sound when the wind blows. But like, is there something else that might be going on when the leaves are making sound? And I know for me, like just depending on what kind of wind it is, like I can either feel very calm, it's like a very soothing sound, and sometimes it's a very scary and intense sound. Um, but yeah, I just was wondering, like, is there some other like layer of conversation that that the trees are having when the leaves are making that sound? And I don't know, maybe it's nothing at all, maybe it's just a crazy thought. But still, it was just kind of fun to be like, huh, I don't know. Like maybe there is some other reason? Yeah. Emery, what were you gonna say?
Well, when we have a lot like a storm coming, my silver maples, hence they get the silver side, you see the underneath, and it's almost like a warning, hey, you know take cover because something's coming. So maybe there in certain trees like that, that's a message to alert. So that made me think of it.
Yeah, sweet. Sweet. Thank you. Thanks for your share too. All right, who else would like to share? Any story from your morning? Yeah, Annie, please go for it. I can give you the button if you can't find it. Here, I'll put it right there. Oh, there you go.
Well,
Yep.
can you hear me? Did I unmute?
Yep, you're all good.
Okay, yeah, I can't see the screen very well because of, I don't know. Anyway, you have made me very curious. Um, it- I when we started the just the practice at the very beginning and listening, I just had a lot of noise over here to my left, just lots and lots of noise. So then when I started watching, it was a whole bunch, maybe 8 to 10 European starlings at these theaters over here. Um, Lots of juveniles and some adults, just making all kinds of racket, you know, talking to each other about, this is where I'm going to feed you, go away, all that kinds of stuff. And there's some pigeons. I wish too many pigeons in my yard, but they're hanging on to these feeders for the little birds and stealing food. And anyway, just lots and lots of noise, lots of activity. And then one male great-tailed grackle came into the yard. All the starlings left. They just all flew away. And I'm like, one grackle? Did they leave because of the grackle? And the grackle went over and got some food and took off, was calling in the tree up there, and the starlings came back. And that happened twice. Oh, you were all talking. Lots of starlings. Grackle would come, starlings left. And then I had a couple, the starling babies, and I'm going to have to watch them now because I've never noticed wing flaps. So now when they come, I have to see if they're flapping their wings too. But they go, feed me, feed me, feed me. So there was like two or three grackles and no starlings. Grackles left, starlings came back. So I thought, okay, is there what is that word? A hierarchy? That if the grackles come they're more so then the starlings leave. I mean, I've seen that with the pigeons will chase away all the doves, and then a quail will come and chase away the pigeons. So I guess it's some kind of hierarchy
Yeah,
in nature.
that's
Anyway,
exciting.
it just made me real curious. I'm going to have to really watch now and see if that's true.
Yes. Oh, that's so exciting, Annie. Yeah, I love figuring out like I don't know, who's the king of the castle kind of thing,
Right.
who's on top. And when I used to live out west, there's a lot, like in Colorado, there's a ton of different kinds of jays. There's pinyon jay, scrub jay. What are the other ones? There's the Clark's Nutcrackers. There's what are their jay? Oh, there's the pinyon. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of different jays out there, and I always wondered like, you know, who's the toughest one? Like which jay is scared of the other jay? And there were moments where I actually got to see them interact, and my assumption was wrong. I think it was the pinyon compared to the scrub, maybe. It was either pinyon and scrub or pinyon and Stellar's jay. And I assumed that the pinyon would be, it just feels more like elegant and like I don't know, more demure maybe. And I assumed that the Pinyon Jay was the one that was like not going to be the king or queen of the castle. And I was totally wrong. They were the ones that like shooshed off everybody else. And I thought, all right, like that's again, my assumption was just like the Stellar's Jay or the Scrub are like they're just kind of like rough and tough. And nope, it was the Pinyon Jay who the other ones were scared of. So yeah, that's a really it's a fun question to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
Thanks, Annie. Awesome. I'm really glad you shared that. And I'm excited for your exploration now. Yeah, yeah, sweet. All right. Anyone else have a story that they want to share from your morning? Yes, Miss Linda, go for it. Your internet might be a little spotty because I think you're a little.
Okay.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
I can hear
Can
you.
you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the internet's kind of goofy. Um, well, this morning before I got on bird set, I heard a downy woodpecker outside, and I looked out and I watched him. And I'm still having a lot of birds early, and he was just out chattering away. And I didn't think anything of it until I noticed later when we started the bird set that he was still chattering, 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 chattering. And I looked for him and he was no longer like feeding. Before he had been feeding, now he was closer to the trunk and he was just chattering and chattering and chattering. And it's really windy now. The wind has really come up. But when you mentioned, well, when it came up and all this, maybe there's a reason for things that it shouldn't just make the assumption that because it's windy that the Downy had gotten in closer to the trunk of the tree. I didn't know, and I noticed the other birds weren't around anymore either. I thought, well, it's windy, but maybe not. And so then I remembered that this past fall had a Cooper's sharpshin hawk who kept visiting my yard. And every time before they came, the downy would just I had a pair of downies and the downy woodpecker was always like just chattering, 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 chattering. Eventually then he'd move in close to the trunk and then I would see a Cooper's or a sharpshin. So that made me realize that it's possible that there was a predator around because the downy, like last fall, the downy, when I couldn't find any predator, I didn't see him. The downy would just be out on a branch, an aspen tree branch, just kind of chattering and chattering and chattering for no particular reason that I could see. And then he'd move in close to the trunk and I'd see the birds. So I just made me wonder. And then I heard when we were listening, doing our listening, I heard a call that really sounded familiar. And I was like, God, who is that? Who is that? I know that call. Who is that? I just felt like I've got to remember who is that call. And then it clicked. I do volunteer work with raptors, and I thought that's a raptor call. There's a certain, a lot of them have different, similar calls, but there's a certain quality to a raptor call. I thought that's a raptor call. And that's why the downy is still chattering. That poor downy is going to have no voice left.
Oh,
And he periodically would move in close to the trunk. But anyway, it was just, I don't know if, I honestly don't know if that's the reason, but it kind of felt like maybe that's it. I don't know. But something that I'm going to keep an eye on whenever I hear about a downy just chattering away to think maybe predators around. So
yeah, and so will I now. So I'm curious from everybody else who just heard Linda's story, did anyone else make a different assumption about a chattering um downy woodpecker when she was saying it was just chattering and chattering and chattering and chattering? Did anyone else make a different kind of assumption about that downy? Anyone else have a different thought? I see Anne thinking and Anne Marie. So go for it, Anne first, and then Anne Marie.
I was thinking calling the juveniles. I just had an experience with a redheaded. And as I come down, sometimes I've been known to put seeds on a certain log. And he's yelling, yelling, yelling. I haven't heard him for a while. So, and I'm like, it's just me. Nobody else is yelling. And then I look up in the tree and there are two other fairly sitting still. And it's weird with this guy even had my binoculars. I had my binoculars. But they were kind of indistinct. And it was yelling, yelling, yelling. He was, and then he'd fly down to where the seed is, fly back to the tree and yell at there's like, there's food here. Go down there and get it. So that's why I was thinking if there was the downy was yelling to juveniles, telling it where food was.
It was interesting. Were you thinking something different, Anne Marie, or related but different?
Similar with the juvenile, if it was begging or looking, continually continue because they're just chasing them all over the place right now. Please feed me. And they're trying, like Ann said, to lead them to where they can be then self-reliant. But I need to pay a lot more attention to the predator warnings. So I really appreciate that, Linda. So,
Yeah, I do too. My assumption, as you were telling the story before you revealed like the more of the depth of the story, I assumed that it was a juvenile downy that was sitting there just like calling it to be fed by its parents, you know. But then you revealed this other layer of the story, and I was like, oh, I never thought about that. Like I probably would have like looked to be like, oh, is it a juvenile or isn't it an adult, whatever. But still, like just in hearing this story, and this is so cool, Linda. That's just an incredible observation that you've made about the connection with the Coopers and the woodpecker and that pattern of their behavior, and something I've never witnessed before. So, high five to you, and thank you for sharing that with us today. Yeah.
I'll research it and let you know.
Yeah, please. See, this is what I mean. There's so many gems that come out of this. And sometimes we think, oh, it's not much of a story or whatever. And it's like, I feel like I always learn so much from you guys. Yeah. Our fish crows are talking. All right, before we head out, anyone else have a story? I want to make sure everyone's voice is heard who wants to be heard today. Good. All right. So let's see. I think we're on for next week. Um, I think that's the only message I have. Anyone who's in the roost, we will be meeting on Wednesday. Anyone in the master's course, we're meeting tomorrow night. And other than that, I hope you all have a beautiful week and keep pondering this question. I love where we're going with it all and really excited to see what comes up for everybody. So thank you everybody for joining. We'll have a beautiful week. Yeah, nice, Jackie. Thank you. All right, everybody. See ya.